Hello and happy Monday, photographers. How are you? Let me make sure that I'm actually streaming. I am actually streaming. This is a good thing. All right, let me stop that because I don't need that anymore. What is happening? Hello to Harley and Sandy and Flavio and Brenda who are already here. And I apologize because I don't know what language the characters are in. I don't know if it's Chinese or Korean or Japanese or another language that I don't know. But hello to you in Sheffield as well. I don't know how to say some kind of a name. It's Korean. Ashley, okay. I'll call you Ashley. Done deal. Hello, Fernando. How are you doing tonight? So, sorry, a bit of a cough here. You'll notice that Mark isn't here. Unfortunately, he may not be here at all tonight, but he may be jumping in late today. So we're going to see what happens. But I may just be flying solo with you guys tonight. So hopefully Mark can join us. Fingers crossed that he can. But if not, you guys are just going to have to put up with this pretty mug. So how's that? Is that good? All right. So we got some photos coming in. But guess what? Guess what? I actually completed the assignment. Literally finished it like 10 minutes ago. I was taking the photo. I started taking the photo at like 5:30-ish, my time maybe, so like half an hour ago. Shot the photo, then did my editing. So I have a photo for tonight, for the theme, for reflections. Also, if you want to vote on the next challenge, you should do that. Voting is open throughout the show, of course, and will be closed at the end of the show. So if you want to vote for the next challenge, I'm putting that link into the chat right now. The next challenge. You can vote at that link right there. And at the end of the night, at the end of the show, we will announce. So let's get this party started. Hello, Elaine. How are you doing? I've got a photo. Let me show it to you. That didn't work right. Transition. My software just decided to quit working. There we go. Now it's working. So here is my reflection photo. And my idea was to kind of show like this face-off between a couple of my Funko Pops. Now, granted, they are crossing universes, of course. We've got Spider-Man from the Marvel Universe and Harley Quinn here from the DC Universe. But, hey, you work with what you got. Got Spider-Man, by the way, my buddy, hanging out right here, helping me out tonight. So... So this is what I shot, and thank you, Ashley. I've got the Funko Pop, 2 Funko Pops facing off, and then for my reflections, you can see I've got Harley Quinn in the back reflecting down again, and then Harley Quinn reflecting across herself, and then Spider-Man reflecting down as well. So it's almost like there's 3 or 4 different versions of these same, characters facing off against each other. Whoops. So that is my photo. I'm really quite happy with it. Elaine, nice colors and balance. Thank you very much. The setup looked like this. So this isn't the best photo in the world. Yeah, exactly, Brendan. I was kind of going for a hall of mirrors kind of look and feel. And this is the setup. I shot this from a little bit higher so you could see how they were positioned. And what they were shot on was 2 pieces of black plexiglass. So I have 1 piece of black plexiglass here propped up behind the Funko Pop characters, and then another piece of longer black plexiglass down on the bottom that they're sitting on. And then the camera on the tripod aiming at them. And then I had the one light, the Godox AD200, up here pointing down at them. So to mimic sort of like a night sort of light, like a moonlight or something like that, that's the kind of feel I was going for. Something kind of dramatic and, cool looking. So that is my photo. I hope you guys like it. And with that, we'll kick off the reflections and start looking at your photos as well. All right. The first photo we have tonight comes from Flavio. So let me bring that up so you guys can see it. And here's Flavio's photo right here. And Flavio says of this, that this is a shot taken from another room while she was getting dressed. The mirror is on the floor, so it could only show her bottom half, which I thought left the photo open to any interpretation, as in I take the shot and the viewer captures it. And I agree with that interpretation, Flavio. I like that you left it open for us. I like that there's some mystery in here. I like that you can just see her legs and nothing else happening. I also like that you captured what looks like the act of pulling up the one stocking. You can see the hand right here that's pulling up the stocking in the actual photo. And then you can see more of that mirrored in the background here because you can see more of the arm. And you can also see that the stocking is down further, whereas up in the front here, because of the way it's cropped, we can sort of see that because you can see just the edge of the stocking here, and then the edge of the stocking there is up higher. But I like here that it's more, it's more evident that that the stocking isn't pulled all the way up. So I really like the story that you're telling here with this photo. And I think, yep, Elaine, I agree with you. I think this works really well in black and white. It could work in color as well, but I think the black and white serves it really nicely. And I like the idea that you captured this from another room and that you're kind of peeking in on this and how it looks like a stolen moment, which again is I think what you were trying to do and show in your photo. So all in all, Flavio, I think it's really nicely done. The other thing I like is that this one shoe is hidden, but we can see that shoe in the reflection. So the reflection is telling a story. And what I like too, she was into the action of finishing. I like that. I really like that because it really helps tell the story. And it gives additional energy to the photo. Not that just a static pose is ever a bad thing, because static poses are fine. But just that act, like the way her fingers are, the way she's holding the stocking, all of that adds like a beautiful elegance and energy and a bit of a sensual feeling to the photo. So I really think it's a beautiful shot, Flavio, and I really like it. I think it's very nicely done. Very nicely done. Hello, Lord Jolly. Thank you for joining. And Mike, you made it. Better late than never. Absolutely right, buddy. Good to see you here. I'm going to take a quick drink here. And then we will move on to the next photo. Once again, very nice work, Flavio. I really like that. I just got to say this one more time. I think my favorite part is her hand and the way she's holding the stocking and the bit of extra energy that conveys in the photograph. Like, I think that's a really beautiful detail. Okay, this one here is, I believe, Brenda's photo. Yes, this is Brenda's. So Brenda said, I work as a CSR at an outlet mall. And she says, I was thinking about the reflection challenge while sitting at my workstation. Then I saw the view from my desk reflected on the countertop. I pulled my Coolpix camera out of my tote bag. Love that you've got that camera with you all the time. And I got this shot. So this was on the Nikon Coolpix rather than on her D3500. But any camera does the trick, right? And the settings were at 5.3, 1/1000th of a second, and 12 millimeters. And I love that you captured that in that moment, that you were thinking about the challenge, and then you saw the opportunity quite literally right in front of you and captured it. And I like how nicely you mirrored it. I like the way the lines from I'm guessing the windows from the storefront or the office front that you're in, I love how continuous they are. I also really enjoy the fact that you have this white line here that is interrupted by this concrete or this brick base, because it helps divide the reflection and it creates a break that catches your brain when you're looking at the photo and you're moving up and down these lines. So I think that's really nicely done. And the basically mirror reflection onto your desktop is really quite perfect. This is a nice reflection in the sense that the reflection is a little bit soft. And that softness gives it a bit of a dreamy feel as compared to the reality of it. And I think it works well in this particular case because it almost feels, in this situation, like an Inceptionist sort of upside down, or Stranger Things, you know, the other side or the underside or the you know, the downside kind of feeling to it, and I really like that. I'm just looking at it for any other details. Yeah, I think it's really nicely done, Sandy. I also like how on this edge, you used that edge of the window to frame off the actual edge of the photo. I think that helps a lot. And I like that you don't have a frame on the other side. You have this one line here, but the other storefront out here, this American Eagle Outfitters storefront itself provides enough of sort of a frame on the left that you've got it nicely, beautifully framed as well. So very nicely done, Brenda. I really like it. Elaine says, nice, Chris. Perhaps would look nice with a person walking far away in the back or sitting in the lounge chairs. Yeah, that could certainly add to it. You can actually see there's a person right there. So there are people in the shot. They're just kind of hidden. So it's like a little actual extra surprise, which I quite honestly didn't even notice until you said something about that, Elaine. And the other thing I noticed is they're not like people, but you can see here these, it looks like advertising flyers in some sort of a like little pull-out kind of pocket on this post. Those are people as well. So there are like the human elements in there if you're kind of looking for them, which makes it even more fun. Ah, they're maps. Okay. Yeah, it's a nice shot, and it's and I like it. Very nicely done, Brenda. Hey, Mike. Mike has joined us, and hello, MJ, and hello to Sabam as well. How is everybody? Let's see. MJ says, hello, guys. Good AM to you, watching from the Philippines. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And Mike says, Brendan, nice shot, somewhat abstract. Yeah, I like that. Mark is AWOL. Yes, hopefully he will be joining us, but as of right now, he is AWOL. Hello, Wayne. How's it going? And Wayne, perfect timing, because I think I'm just about to get to your photo. Look at that. I just got to your photo, Wayne. Perfect timing. How you doing, buddy? Hello, Lord Jolly. Thank you very much. You are very welcome. I'm happy to be able to do these and share my thoughts and offer the feedback to help you guys grow in your composition. And Lord Jolly, I did see your comment up above about the black and white photo of the tree reflected in the puddle. That, as long as it's uploaded here, I'm seeing if you uploaded it. Yeah, I see you uploaded it. Then I'll be able to comment on it. Just do me a favor and please also share some background information on your photo, Lord Jolly, because that helps me give comments that are helpful to you and to everybody else watching, because understanding your intent behind the photo is helpful for me to give you feedback on trying to achieve and execute the things you wanted to achieve. So that's important for me. And you can just share your information right here in the YouTube chat, that's fine. Or you can post it into the share room where you shared the photo. Either way. Okay, so let me take a drink. Can we taste test the photo, right? Well, it says take-home beer available. Wayne, the question is this. Is the image crooked because you were sampling all of the wares? And you weren't quite steady enough to hold the camera? So Wayne says of this photo, the old brewery pub, this was taken at ISO 100 and f2.8 and 1/160th of a second. So he says, I called there one day because he wanted to see the vats and got my camera out quickly and took some shots. And he says the flash shows in this shot, which is bad. Which, you know, the flash actually isn't horrible. Like, I can see it, as you mentioned, but it's not the worst. You know, the reflection is there and there. And I like this play on reflections because you can see the vats themselves are kind of the subject, but then you can see those reflections in there. I think in the end, you're right that it would be better if you had shot it without the flash. That would probably change the overall brightness of the scene, though, and I like the brightness of the rest of the scene. So what you could have done, it would take a little bit of extra effort, but what you could have done is gone in here and edited the flash out. Hey, Mark, you're here! Whoop, whoop, whoop. Just gotta hop on in, and I'll get you added to the chat, buddy. or added to the, the feed, to the stream, to the thingamajobber. Ah, there he is. Okay, we're going to pause here for a moment while I get Mark situated in everything. All right, you there, bud? Hey, I can hear you. They can't hear you. They can't hear you yet just because I haven't added you in. I got to get your sound and all that dealy-do done. So, right, under pressure. Okay. Righty. So we were talking about Wayne's photo, but I'm gonna quickly switch over to my notes because I need those when I add Mark in to the whole dealio, and do all the replacings and making sure that he's in the deal. So did you get all your... Mark was out running some errands and taking care of some business that had to be taken care of. Everything all taken care of?
It's still stuff to do, but we're getting there.
Excellent. They should be able to hear you, by the way, so you can say hello.
Oh, hello, everybody, if you can actually hear me.
All right, we're getting there. Okay, get added into here. Binga bam. And now...
Brenda says she hears me, so that's a good sign.
Excellent.
That's working.
And now they should be able to see you.
Hey!
All right. Almost, I just got to add you to the last set while we're looking at the photos and get that sorted out, and then we can pick back up with Wayne's photo here. That there. Bing, bang, boom. Okay. I hear Mark. Hocus pocus. Mark is here. Poof.
Ta-da!
Ta-da! Oh, and you guys can see my checklist, which is super boring, so we don't need that. All right. So, hello, Mark. How are you doing today?
Can't complain at all.
Excellent. So we were taking a look at... I'm doing really good. Doing very good. We were just taking a look at Wayne's photo here, and the theme, of course, for tonight. Did you get a photo for tonight, Mark, by the way?
I have one. It's not edited.
Okay.
It wouldn't take me long to quickly edit it, but I would say let's go through what everybody has here, and if we have time afterwards, I'll kind of quickly whip it out with just a real quick edit and upload it. If there's not time, then we won't worry about it.
Okay, sounds good. I actually accomplished the assignment this week. I couldn't let myself go 3 challenges in a row without a photo. So I literally shot the photo half an hour before the show started, and then was furiously editing it before I went live. So I did it.
Have you reviewed it yet?
Yeah, I actually did, but I'll pop it back up real quick, maybe at the end, so you can have a look at it too.
Yeah, sounds good. Or you can just send it to me via chat or whatever.
Sure thing.
But let's not keep people waiting here.
All right, so we're looking at Wayne's photo right here, and I haven't actually talked about the fact that it's crooked, other than making a joke about him being a little drunk while he took the photo.
All the beer.
Right, exactly. Because I was talking about just the reflections of the photo itself. So I'll go ahead and finish up, and then I'll pass it over to you. How's that sound?
Sure, gives me a chance to have a quick look at it.
Perfect. Alrighty, so what I was saying is, if you wanted to, because it's a reflection in the vats here, it would be fairly easy for you to remove that, to Photoshop it out if you wanted to, Wayne. And I think it would be worth doing because the brightness that the flash added to the scene works really well in general. The other thing you could do is come up here and Photoshop out these little shadows that are being cast by these little drop lights caused by the flash again. Those elements are worth doing. And then the other thing that is worth doing is definitely straightening the image out, because it is crooked, it is leaning slant off to the right there. And unless you want it to feel like that, because you kind of want to give that idea of, being at the pub and having had a few and not being quite sure if the world is straight, if you're crooked, or if the spins are just about to hit.
Yeah. This could be a tricky one to really get to look straight, because it looks like it was shot with a pretty wide angle lens, because on the right side you got everything leaning to the right, but then on the left side everything is basically straight. So if you average it out, then you're going to have it leaning out on both sides.
Yeah, what you could do with this though is use those straightening tools, the
Yeah,
perspective correction tools, like in Lightroom as an example, where you actually draw along the lines and then it straightens everything out and corrects
yeah,
that distortion. But yeah,
yeah.
that is a good point, Mark.
Yeah, I guess for when you're shooting wide like this, another good tip too. It's not really related to Wayne's photo directly, just sort of indirectly for anybody who shoots really wide. Is if you get your camera as level as possible, so basically you're not really looking up or looking down on your scene, but basically as straight in as you can get. That'll a lot of times will eliminate or at least drastically reduce the amount of distortion.
Right, right. That's a very, very good point. All right, I'm going to let you go on the rest of it. Any feedback you want to give? I just want to finish real quick by saying that all in all, I really do like this photo, Wayne, and I love your play on the reflections because there's a lot of depth to it because of the vats and the scene and all the reflection that you captured in there, and just making those perspective corrections and thinking about photoshopping out some of the flash elements would be awesome. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Mark.
yeah. I think basically from what I heard from what you said, I would agree with all your comments that the you got the shadows behind the little lights up top and the straightening of the image. Generally, overall, it definitely depicts the theme. So really nicely done on that. Something else that might have been kind of fun too is I'm not sure how wide your lens was or if you have a wider lens, but it might have been kind of cool if you got right up to one of those cylindrical vats, up nice and close, and just took a nice close up wide view just in tight. That probably would have been a real fun shot as well too, especially if it had like a fisheye lens. But
Mm-hmm.
but generally, yeah, I do like this shot. It's really nice. I'm surprised how clean these vats are. So
Mm-hmm.
you'd expect fingerprints and crap all over them, but no, they're nicely clean. You've got your presentation is nice. The tables are all clear. Not that the chairs are in nice and organized. There's not just kind of stuff all randomly all over the place. So I'm not sure if you set it up like that or whether it just happened to be the way it was when you got there. But either way, it's a great photo, and I like the way everything is just presented to you in general.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I very much agree. I really love how clean the photo looks in general. Even though there's a lot going on, it has a very clean look to it that I
Yeah,
like
yeah,
quite a lot.
exactly.
Yep,
Yep.
yep. All right. We've got a couple comments, and Wayne or Brant was suggesting to Wayne to look into flash triggers, and I'm not sure. I'm guessing that this was the on-camera flash that you might have been using, Wayne. But if there is if you do have off-camera like hot shoe flashes, definitely playing with flash triggers, radio triggers, which you can get for super cheap
Hmm.
off of Amazon or often at your local camera store if you still have a local camera store anymore.
Yeah.
Um, are really really great tools to work with and play with, and I very enthusiastically second Brant's recommendation to check that out if you want to play with flash some more.
Yep.
All
Definitely.
right.
And like
Hello.
Spyros said, it's cheap to get into.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Oh, see, you know what? Maybe we should do an off-camera flash challenge. I want to ask you guys about that. I think that would be super fun. I know not everybody has off-camera flash gear though, and I don't want to create a challenge that would be exclusionary to people because of budget and or lack of gear. So just quick sort of straw poll. How would you guys feel about doing some sort of a flash challenge in the future? All right. A couple other things real quick since we're kind of on the in between. You can vote at shp.photo/vote for the next challenge. And currently we have 1-to-1 or square for the photo frame in the lead, for followed pretty hot by food. So this should be fun.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah, Harley makes a good point. You can do off-camera flash with cables too. I think nowadays it's actually cheaper to do wireless, only because you can get triggers for cheaper than you can get long cables, long enough to like position flashes at distances and in places you might want to put them. But that is a good point, Harley.
Yeah,
Let's see.
something else too is a lot of flashes. will trigger if it just sees another flash, even without having a remote. But then you still have your camera flash going, but it can trigger the off-camera flash as well too, without having any radio trigger. It's just a little more cumbersome to get it out, and your flash does have to support it, but it is an option.
Yeah, and quite honestly, like if a person isn't sure about flash or budget, it doesn't have to be expensive at all. And this is an example right here. This is the Amazon Basics Speedlight. It's just literally a rebrand of a Godox TT560 flash, but Amazon, being Amazon, sells it for about $8 or $10 cheaper than the exact same Godox light. So last time I looked, this was about $27 or $28 for this flash. And this flash will work on any camera. In addition to that, this flash has the a PC sync port for hooking up a wireless trigger. If it isn't a trigger that works based off of the hot shoe. And as Mark was just talking about, this flash has that optical receptor to be triggered by other flashes. So you can get into flash really cheap, and this is a flash that I would definitely recommend if a person is wanting to try flash out but doesn't want to spend money and isn't a lot of money and isn't sure what to do or what to get. Super simple flash, but super effective, and still is great for learning and shooting with.
Yeah.
In fact, right here, this is the ripoff. This is the original version, the Godox TT560. You can see how similar they are. Like they're basically identical, other than the very light branding differences. That's it. All right, so let's move on to the next photo. Let's see here. Just check the comments first. Hello, Sabam. Just real quick, the jacket is a new addition, and thank you very much. I was trying to sharpen up my look of hair there. Hello to Rick, who's joining us, and Jeff.
Every girl's crazy about a sharp-dressed man, right?
Yeah, right. I just need a much longer beard for that. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Could have bounced the light off the ceiling. Good question, Bella JB. If it's just a pop-up flash on the camera, then he'd have been limited in how he'd be able to bounce it, because you can't really move and position that very much. But if it was a flash like the one I just showed you, then bouncing it off the ceiling definitely would have been a possibility.
Yeah, you still get the reflection there, just maybe not as bad because it's not direct flash. It's just the more I don't know, reflective flash.
It would be more diffused, and you'd see more of that reflecting off of the top parts of the vats rather than off the faces of the vats that are facing Wayne, just because the light's going to go up, hit the ceiling, and then bounce down around the scene.
Yeah.
So you'd still get some reflection, but the reflections would be in different places, and they'd be more diffused and less specular, because the light itself would be diffused off of the ceiling before hitting the subjects.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's move on to the next photo. This one here, let me find the information about this one. Okay, I'm not seeing any information on this one. If this is your photo,
claim it.
Yes, please claim it. Again, I'm just looking for the information, and it may be that you shared the information, but Elaine, perfect, it's yours. Superb. Go ahead, Elaine, and share your information, please. All right, I'm just looking through the notes here too, because Fernando says, I just realized I uploaded the wrong version of a photo. Seems impossible to delete the uploaded version. That's all right. Don't worry. If you uploaded the wrong version, just go ahead and upload the version you want and let me know in the share room which version you want us to look at. And that's not a big deal, Fernando. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, we'll just skip through it.
Okay. Yeah, I apologize, Elaine. What happens is, unfortunately, I figured you'd probably shared it, but what happens is, if I close my browser, which I did on accident earlier today, it loses some of the messages that were posted in the Vola file in the share room, and that's why I don't have it. So I apologize for that.
Yeah, that's an unfortunate problem with that, but what can you do, right?
Right, exactly. So while Elaine is about to share his information, Mark, I'll let you start on this one.
Yeah, okay, it's a beautiful shot. I really like this one. Um, I'm assuming it's a long exposure, either that or else it was dead calm. But it could be a combination of both because we do have the starburst there, which usually is a good indication that you shot it like a F11 or F16 or something along those lines. And so usually if it's dark and you're shooting at F16, you're probably even without any filters, you're probably a good 20-second exposure, anyways.
Dude, you just nailed it. 20 seconds F16.
Oh, there you go. That's hilarious.
That is hilarious.
I'm better than I thought.
I love it.
Yeah, but I'm. Oops, just give me one. I'm having a closer look here. I was thinking the building on the extreme right looked like it was a little out of focus, but looking at it, zooming in, it actually isn't. So I think it was just an illusion the way I was looking at it. But it's a really nice photo. I like it. I like definitely like the reflections. The two lights that are starbursts, their reflections are kind of weird looking. I think that's kind of weird the way they could almost look like matchsticks down in the water. But um, uh, otherwise, I really like this photo. I like the processing on it. I like the sky. You can tell it's dark out or some real interesting clouds, but with the longer exposure, they're sort of starting to blend into each other. So yeah, I think it's very well done. And like I said, the only thing that's kind of throwing me off is a reflection of those starbursts, but it's a reflection, so you don't expect it to be perfect. But yeah, beautifully done. I really like this one.
Yeah, I like it as well. I'm guessing what happened is over the 20 seconds, the movement of the water basically stretched that reflection out because the
Yeah,
buildings look
yeah,
a little stretched out too.
yeah. I would agree.
Yeah, so this
It's
I
kind of
love.
funny looking.
Yeah, it is. I love this shot. So let's just quickly cover his settings. So this is Ghent hometown. I hope I said that correctly, Elaine. I apologize if I didn't. And it's a night shot. 20 seconds at f16 as we established. Again, you nailed that, Mark. That was awesome. And then ISO 400 at 18 millimeters. So extra smooth the water. He used the structure slider in Lightroom and pulled it back to decrease the structure in the water to make it even smoother, which I like. That's a really nice way to use that in the opposite way that people often tend to use it.
Yeah,
I,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I love the feel and mood of this photo. I love how crisp those buildings are and how soft and dreamy everything else feels because you've also got that motion in the clouds over that 20 seconds. And so the sky has a softness to it, and there's a tiny bit of softness to the buildings, but also crisp. So it's like they're crispy but soft at the same time. And that contrast of those two feelings at the same time, I think really helps elevate this photo. It makes it feel extra surreal to me, actually. So I'm loving that feeling of this. And the whole kind of aesthetic, this isn't exactly right, but this whole aesthetic kind of makes me feel like a little bit of this like German, the German expressionist kind of feeling that the like the movie Metropolis, like that classic. I don't know if German expressionism is the right movement that I'm thinking of. Let me look real quick. Yeah, it is German expressionism. That's what this makes me feel like. And I really like that feeling. Now, Mike did suggest maybe try monochrome, and it's very close. And you could take it monochrome, but I quite like the subtlety of the colors that are there.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think I would leave them. I think this would lose a little bit of its magic if it was black and white. It would still be excellent, but I think it would just lose a touch of that magic. Yeah, Elaine, this is beautiful. I really, really love this photo. I honestly, I can't see anything that I would do different or change. I think you executed this really fantastically.
Yep.
Very nicely done. Very, very nicely done.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah,
Took the bull by the horns.
right, and I really do love that expressionist feel that I'm getting out of it. Elaine says again. I'm probably saying it wrong again, but he says Ghent is a medieval city, and these are one of the oldest buildings, and that really even reinforces that for me even more. Beautiful work, beautiful work.
Yep.
All right, let's take a look at the next photo. Oh, very interesting. Okay, so let me see. I don't think I have any. Okay. This is Ashley's photo. So the idea was to capture the moment when the beautiful color of the sky hit the windows of the cars passing by, creating reflections. I love how you're just waiting for us, Ashley, to get that up there. It's like boom. See the photo, deliver the info. I love it.
Yeah.
All right, Mark, I'll let you start on this one too.
Yeah, this one's nice too. It's the colors in the sky remind me actually of a photo I took there a couple of months ago. It's got because I got one with the nice purple and reds in the sky and also had reflections as well. Not in vehicles, but mine was actually in water. But either way, still same principle. But yeah, I like how you interpreted the reflection theme using basically the vehicles and the reflections of the light on the side of them. That's an interesting take, and I like how you thought outside the box for something like that because that's not typically what you think of for reflections, but it definitely 100% is a reflection. So it's nicely captured. I love the colors in the sky. Love the colored reflections in the vehicles. The vehicles are dark, but I think in this case it's suited because if you brighten them up, I think it would just take away from the reflections on the sides. So on the sides of the vehicles, so that's perfect. It, Even the building over on the top right corner, sort of cutting into the frame. Normally, I'd say I'd like to see the sky, but in this case, the sky is really just colors. There's not really any like interesting clouds. So I think having in there actually works because it helps kind of frame you in. It is kind of at a point, kind of pointing you down to where the vehicles are, so you're kind of drawn in just to go back and look at that. So nicely spotted, nicely framed.
I agree. So the point you were just making about that up in the upper right corner there, I wholeheartedly agree. I think that's a really crucial point of this composition because that great big open sky can be super attractive to look at, and it is because it is the brighter part of the image. And I love the subtlety of the colors as they shift downward. And you've got so many really interesting and intense lines in here, like the line across created by the traffic lights, and then you have the line that kind of comes up this way from the lower right, moving up towards the left, and then that other overhang that points you up in that direction, right? So this overhang that points you up in that direction, that's a really strong line. And without that overhang on the upper right, framing that in, that would kind of point you out of the image. And it could be an exit point that wouldn't bring you back in. But because you have that overhang there, it's like a deflector, exactly like Mark said. It like bounces you right back into the image, and then your eye just can wander around it. So I love your use of silhouetting here, and how you're letting the sky and the beautiful subtlety of those colors and the transition of those colors kind of guide you downward into the silhouettes, and then catching those super subtle and beautiful reflections in those vehicles, and those colors being reflected in the vehicles. I love the pops of green that come from those traffic lights and the text over on the left that serve as a contrast to these more purplish and bluish and reddish colors. And they all kind of have a pastel feel to them, even the greens, which I think is also really beautiful. So, like, by and large, I love this. I think this is a really wonderful interpretation of the reflections theme.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like the subtlety of it. That's, I think, my favorite part is just how subtle. Like when it first came up, it took me a half a second to realize, got it. The vehicles are the reflection.
Yeah.
But I like that. I think it's very nicely done. Very nicely
Yeah.
done, Ashley.
Yeah. One small comment I noticed afterwards is the top right corner of the image. You don't see it on your view because you're zoomed in a little bit. I think.
Uh,
But I do notice the top right corner is
mhm.
a little bit of a dark vignette just in that corner. I might take a brush just to kind of lighten it up a little bit so it's not so intrusive, or crop in a little bit maybe.
Okay, I see it now. I pulled in on the shot, or pulled out on the shot, and I can see, yeah, there's a touch of a vignette up there. I think it's okay. I personally think it's okay because I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to say. I think because
I think it just needs to be lightened a little bit because it doesn't really distract or anything. I just kind of
Mhm.
find you've got all these nice kind of pastel type colors, and all of a sudden, bang! There's like a dark blue in the corner.
Yeah, yeah, that's a
That's
that's
kind
a
of the way I look at it.
I see what you're saying. I see what
Yeah,
you're saying. I kind of like how it is guiding you in, which is basically the point of a vignette in the first place.
fair enough. Yeah, I think it's just that you're only seeing it in the one corner just throws me off. I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very nicely done, Ashley. Very nicely done. Thank you
Yeah,
very much for sharing.
definitely.
Fernando says, I would hang this picture on my wall. It draws you in. That's a beautiful compliment.
Hmm.
Lord Jolly says, nice colors in the sky. Fernando says, great shot. Hello, Terry. She's Terry. I'm not sure if Terry is male or female. Terry says hello to both of us.
Hi, Terry.
And let's see. Um, love the abstract lines against the sky, Rick says. I agree. Cochise Heart says, love the colors. Yep, absolutely. Beautiful work. Thank you very much for sharing, Ashley. Okay, next we have Sandy's photo. Sandy says, this is Sandy Gedries. Let me find it. I know the info's in here. I was walking in the woods when I spotted this fairy admiring herself in the mirror. She was so engrossed in herself, she didn't notice that I was taking a picture. Settings were 40 millimeters, f7.1, and 1/80th of a second at ISO 100. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I love the fact that she just added that story to it. So that in itself makes the photo.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's definitely a great reflection shot. It definitely suits the theme. Um, it's it, there's lots of busyness in the photo, but you expect that because you know it's in the woods, which is where the fairies typically live, and so I think it's well suited having the busyness in there. But even with the busyness there, it's you still get drawn into the actual reflection of this because in the background is slightly out of focus and the foreground slightly out of focus, and the fact that the actual fairy itself is slightly out of focus makes you have to look at the reflection in the mirror where she's tack sharp. So I think that's nicely done the way you did that, and you've used great composition here too because you have a little Miss Fairy here in the left third, and you also have the tree trunk itself in the third. And you do have this one the one root coming right through the middle, but that doesn't really throw anything off at all, just because it's not really the subject at all. So it's a great photo. It's well framed, well executed, and it's perfect for the theme for sure.
I love what you did here, Sandy. I really enjoy the story you created and told with it. I think it's really clever. And the way you framed it, the way you set it up, the environment that you put it in, it all tells that story. Like, even without you having put that into the comments, the story of the words exactly matches the story of the photo. So as far as like
Hmm.
that execution goes, that was flawless. It's really fantastic. And I like your use of depth of field to separate the reflection from the actual subject. So as Mark was saying, you know, the main subject, well, not the main, but the actual fairy that we see with her back to us is slightly out of focus. And that would tend to draw attention, but because it's slightly out of focus, whereas the reflection is perfectly sharp, then our attention goes to the mirror. And as a mirror will do, it's almost like we look at the mirror, then we bounce off of that mirror and we see the actual fairy sitting there, and then we kind of escape into the rest of the photo. So I really, really like that. I think the only thing that I would say is the whole thing feels left-leaning to me because of the way the trunk line goes and because of the way the root also kind of moves, and because she's kind of at this angle in this direction. I don't know, like I feel like it should be straightened, but that, again, as we have said before in the past, is subjective to you as a photographer as well. So if this feels straight and right to you, then by all means don't change that. But for me, I think I'd like to see it. Like picking the straight line in this is going to be difficult, but I'd probably use the fairy as kind of my reference point and just go by feel on this.
You're basically thinking of skewing it a couple of degrees clockwise, then, right?
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Yep, yeah, like 1 maybe 2 degrees, probably not much more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Hello, Noe, who just joined us, and Mike says I like the use of the mirror. Nice to see you as well, Noe. Fernando says great. Fernando says fine art, telling a humorous story in a very clever way. I like it. Yeah, absolutely, right? And
It's amazing how much a story can add to the concept of a picture. And like this one here, it's obvious what the picture is, but the story just brings it to the next level.
yeah, that really is. And this is the absolute best part of the whole thing, though. Sandy said, I had some fun. And
Yeah, exactly.
that more than anything else is what makes all of this worth it and amazing, right? Because that's the whole point. That's why we love this, because it's fun. Yeah. All right. Yeah. We always know we're always streaming right before Noe's got to go to work. So it's a quick pop in, then off to work, right?
There you go.
Yeah,
What can you do, right?
I'm excited though. Noe's got a video out on radioactive lenses, and I've always been curious about those lenses because I am aware of those lenses that are that have the radioactivity to them, but I've never actually really learned much about them. So he did a video explaining how they work and what they do, and I'm excited to watch that. So have you ever?
I'm assuming it's probably the Takamar lenses. I think it's the 50 mil 1.8. I think it is.
I think that might be the lens. I don't remember, but yeah. All right. Let us take a look at the next photo. Thank you very much, Sandy, for sharing your photo with us.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Okay, this here is, I seen this lady having her morning coffee and smoke before her shift started. I did ask to take the photo, and then also made her an 8x10 print and surprised her with it. That's really cool.
Nice.
That's a beautiful thing to do.
Yeah, definitely.
And this is Jeff Scott's photo, by the way. So Jeff says, Planet Bean in, I'm going to say this wrong, Guelph, Ontario, I think.
Guelph.
Guelph?
Guelph, yes.
Okay, Guelph, Ontario. I was thinking Guelph, but I was pretty sure I was wrong. Obviously, I was wrong. So
yeah, that's about an hour away from the hour
okay.
and a half.
So Josh shot this with the Sony A77 using the 18 to 55 millimeter G lens with a settings of ISO 400, f2, f4, and 1/60th of a second with the lens zoomed to 24 mil. Go ahead, Mark.
Nice. This is nice. I really like this one as a black and white. I think it works quite well as a black and white. And I normally when I see a black and white, I like to say, oh, I like them really crunchy. But this one's not super duper crunchy, but I actually quite like it the way it is. So I'm not going to say crunchify this one. So, but I love the framing on this one. You've got basically again, you've got your subject, the woman here on the third, and then her reflection is on the third as well too. And the reflection is nice and smooth too. It's just right after a rain, but the rain had obviously stopped because you're not seeing any drops or anything like that. So definitely a very nice capture here. I can't really see anything on here that I would change if it was me doing this either. So everything looks straight and it's, like I said, well composed, well processed, and overall great shot.
Yeah, I like it a lot. There's another really wonderful story in here, and the reflection again is just, these reflections are really on point, and I like that we're seeing different interpretations and different executions of this. The thing that I'm struggling with in this is the double lines of the building and the reflection moving off to the back are really, really strong. And I keep finding myself looking away from her and looking back towards the back of the image because of those lines and because of the draw that they present. And I'm wondering if it might have worked better had it been framed with her more towards the back, and she'd be a little bit more diminished. So I wouldn't put her like, way back here so she's I wouldn't put her like way back in the corner so she's super tiny, but maybe have shifted the camera a bit to the right so that that lead moves you into her rather than moving past her like I seem to be doing in the composition. So that's the biggest struggle that I'm having with the image is how strong that pull is towards the back of the image, which is taking me away from her. And I really want to keep my eye on her because it's a really compelling story. Like she's hanging out. I love that squat. She's leaning against her. She's got her coffee. She's got her cigarette. You can actually see a bit of the smoke on the exhale there. Look at how she's holding her coffee. Check this out, right? Like this is even more interesting. Her coffee is like perched on her phone like this, and she's holding the whole situation like this. Like the whole thing is just intriguing and really fun and exciting and interesting to look at. So I think just a slightly different approach to the framing to keep the focus and attention on her. Mike says, but sometimes you got to shoot now if it's good. And I agree. And we've talked about that before. Like if you're in the moment and you literally only have that moment, you get what you get. I'm guessing that she would probably have complied with or been okay with him taking a moment with Jeff taking a moment to recompose and maybe try an angle or two in order to get it. But if Jeff only felt comfortable taking one shot and wanted to just not intrude upon her further, I totally respect and appreciate that. And I still think it's a very good photo, but I think it could be stronger if the composition focused the attention on her more intently. The black and white, I think, works well. I agree that crunchiness that you're looking for, Mark, serves it well, too. And I love the crispiness of the reflection, but also that you can see the actual texture and brickwork of the street, the cobble, of the pavement or whatever below, which kind of breaks the reflection a little bit and adds a little bit of mystery to it. Mm-hmm. So very nice work again. Like a couple of you have said, it's really, Rick says, just one brilliant image after another. And all in all, I agree. You guys are doing really fantastic work. Mike says, also consider if he approaches her pose or attitude could change. That is true, but he did mention that he had approached and asked if he could take her photo. So he had already done that.
So she was aware it was happening.
Right. So that's why I kind of suggested that you could maybe reframe and take a shot or two if you wanted to. But, the situation may have been different. And either way, it's still very nicely done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Mike says, could be in a street photography portfolio. I agree. Mm-hmm. Mike says, Sony A77, I had one. It's a nice camera. Yeah, that was a really nice camera. Fernando says, love the depth of field. We don't always have to blur the background. In this case, it adds so much to her story. Yeah. Great depth of field can be really excellent. Mm-hmm. All right. Nice shot, Lord Jolly says. Like the leading lines in the black and white works well. Cochise Heart says, have a shoot in a little bit. Great seeing you all. Okay. Have a good night, Cochise. Good luck on the shoot. I hope everything goes really well. All right. Let's take a look at the next photo here. Whoops. And it is, I believe, this one here. Yes. All right, let me find the information on this photo. Urania. Hey, Tim finished the floor. Okay, Jeff says she didn't move at all. Okay, Jeff says I only had a second to take it. So yeah, that's totally understandable then. You had the one shot and that's what you got, and based on that, still very well done, and I quite like it and think it's very nice work. So well done. Either way, well done. Okay, so this one was not meant to be the one that was uploaded. There's a color version of this one that Fernando wanted us to take a look at. So we'll skip this one and we'll do the color one. So we'll move on. And this here is Lord Jolly's photo. And let me just get Lord Jolly's info up here. So this was, Lord Jolly says, I was interested to try and see things from a different angle or perspective. I saw this tree in a puddle, and it was shot with the Sony a7R II and a 35 millimeter lens handheld. All right, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, it's just I saw there are two versions there. I was looking to see if they were the same one or not. It looks like they are.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is interesting. You've got you've got the water here reflecting the tree. Then it's also broken up with the mud in about here with all the footprints and what have you in here. It looks like it's probably like taken in a cow field or something like that. But I definitely like the concept. I think this is one of those ones where it's a reflection. It's not a super bang in your face reflection, but it's a reflection that makes you think about it. Like something like this, because of the way it's reflecting and with all the mud in here, you can almost see this as kind of being like almost like a fine art type print. So I think that works well. I think for me, my biggest distraction is the top left corner. There's like looks like a post, the end of a post or something up in that corner. It'd probably be easy to clone that out just to kind of clean up that little area, just because it seems a little out of place, because we basically got mud, water, and reflections, and then there's just this whatever it is just kind of sitting there. You could either crop in a little bit tighter or clean that up if you want it to.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I do like the processing. It's kind of muted. You could probably even do this in black and white completely if you really want to, just because of the lack of color in here. This might actually work pretty good as a black and white, actually.
Is it not black and white? I just assume it looks to me like a black and white.
I'm not sure, because to me it's hard to tell, because I'm thinking it almost looks like there's brown tones in it. That's kind of why I'm questioning whether it is actually black and white or not, to be
Okay.
honest. I could be wrong. I've been wrong plenty of times.
No way, Mark. No
Yeah,
way.
apart from that one thing up there, I like it. It's different. It's not the kind of thing you normally see, and it really kind of makes you think with this one. Just because you've got, there's so much going on in such a simple photo that it's definitely an interesting shot.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Want to real quick say goodnight to, or good day to Noe, who's got to head off to work, and Elaine has got to go to sleep after an intensive wedding this weekend. Get some sleep.
Guys.
Yeah. And, oh yeah, I forgot to, I wanted to check into the comments about what people thought about the Flash challenge. So I'm actually I want to scroll back and look at that right now, because a couple of you had some comments on that question that I had for you guys.
Yeah, I think it was kind of mixed from what I remember.
Okay, so let's see here. Okay, off-camera flash is fun. Fun shoot. Brenda said no equipment. Totally understand. OCF is an interesting challenge idea. I want to put some in a pond at night in Ziploc bags with gels. That would be super fun and interesting. Elaine says flash challenge would be nice. Just had a stressful wedding photo shoot inside. I tried also second curtain during the dance party. Very pleased, but still very stressy when you try this. Yeah. Brand says I've been using old flash equipment, so not too much to risk. Okay, so we'll think about how we could maybe do the flash challenge in a way that would be as non-exclusionary as we can make it, because
I guess we could just do flash versus off-camera flash, and see if anyone can get creative with on-camera flash.
Yeah, which I think you could. And Terry also said off-camera flash would be good. So I definitely think there's interest in an off-camera flash challenge. So yeah, I'll think on that. I'm going to make myself a note right now so I don't forget. And we'll consider that as an option. Okay, so I really like this photo. I love the texture that you've got going on here. And I love the way the texture breaks and abstracts the reflection. So this is a very, to me, this is a very abstract interpretation of the theme, which I like a lot. I love the way the mud or whatever it is pokes in and out of the water. I love the way the bits of ripple break up the reflection a little bit and abstract it even further. And I love the way the mud basically frames everything out. I do agree with you, Mark, that bit of whatever it is sticking in that leftish corner looks like the butt end of something, a post, a stick, or whatever. Taking a minute to just hit that with a clone stamp or something, and cleaning that up, I think would just make this even more seamless. And I like the way I read it. It looks totally black and white to me, and I like it as a black and white. I would almost say crunch it up a little bit more. Like, don't go crazy on the crunch, but I think leaning into the texture of this one will really emphasize that reflection even more, because it will create some additional contrast and it will abstract it a little bit further. And I like that. I like the exposure on this. I really like the framing on it. Again, I love the way that everything's kind of broken up by the water and the mud. This is a really nicely done photo, Lord Jolly. I like it quite a bit, and I appreciate you sharing it with us.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, a couple more comments on the Flash challenge. Brian said off-camera flash sounds fun. Harley says use mirrors to move on-camera flash off axis. You could certainly do that. Oh, hey, Sandy. Sandy Seuss is here, but so late and no reflection pick because she didn't have time. That's cool. You get a pass since...
She sounds like us on a regular basis.
You're right, exactly. That's what I was just going to say. It's like, I think it's fair we give her a pass. Brand adds that the age or brand of Flash does not seem to matter much for matching color. I think they're all based on Xenon. Yeah, like occasionally you might run across a Flash or two that doesn't color match as well with the mixed bag, but I've never had a problem with using mixed brand flashes and having like really bad color matching. So I think that's fine too. Okay. Lord Jolly added, yes, it was shot in color and converted to black and white in Lightroom. Okay. Okay, and it's a bit of a log sticking in is what it is. Okay, excellent. Yeah, thank you very much for sharing this photo, Lord Jolly. Appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Mike says, now if your flash trigger is on your camera hot shoe, is that considered on-camera flash? Only have an 8200. Oh, we could do this one of two ways. It could be either an off-camera flash challenge, or it could just be a flash challenge. We haven't landed on any particular thing yet, but I think my original proposition was an off-camera flash challenge based on Wayne's photo and the fact that he was using his flash in a way that worked but had some drawbacks. Okay, this photo, let me find out who this belongs to. Mike's photo. This is Mike McKenna's photo. Nikon rules. Mike shot this at Lake Louise in, Mike. This was supposed to be shot. Yeah, Mike broke the rules. This is supposed to be shot in the last 2 weeks, Mike. Come on, Mike. McKenna. Mike McKenna I'm talking to.
Slacker.
Yeah, come on now, buddy. You gotta follow the rules. All right, so this was shot last year in July of 2018 and on Mike's D850 with the Tamron 24 to 7700 millimeters lens at 24 mil. It was auto ISO and it came out at 3600 f22 and 1/400th of a second. He said an iconic shot from last year, probably many others at the spot, but what the heck. All right, go ahead, Mark.
Well, it's definitely a nice reflection shot, even if it is out of the time frame. But but regardless, it's a beautiful composition because you had the mountains just on both sides coming down to draw your eyes into the mountain at the back, and then even further down till you actually get to the reflection where everything kind of zooms back out. So it's an interesting reflection because it's reflecting top to bottom, but it sort of also, just because the shape of the mountains almost sort of reflects the left and right as well too, just because of the way you have the tree growth on either side here, and the shape of the mountains on either side are very similar. So it's kind of interesting. One thing I do find a little bit, I'm not going to say distracting, but a little bit off is the bottom right corner is like just some, looks like a random stone or something down there in that bottom corner, which it could probably easily be cropped out. But other than that, it's a nice shot. I like it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, and it's another take on an abstracting, because there's basically no like horizon or ground line. Like, we have the mountains, and you have all of the trees on the mountains, and everything just meets the water, and then you just have that immediate reflection. And so this very, very much feels like an Inception sort of photograph, and I like that about it. I like how abstract it is. I like how it sort of breaks my brain a little bit looking at it, and I almost can't see the mountains and whatnot, because my eyes and brain are so focused on the shapes created by the reflection and the symmetry of them. Like on the right, I'm seeing a cow's head, and I can't not see that. Like, my brain is just so
Oh, that's a good
focused on
point.
that, which is really interesting for me. So it's a really great shot, Mike. Mike broke the rules a little bit, so shame on you. Next time, make sure it's within the 2-week period. We'll give you a pass. We'll give you a pass this time, bud. Okay, this one I don't have any information on, and I'm not sure that it fits the reflection challenge without any context or information. So if this is your photo, please do share your information, and we will come back to it. And I'm just going to double check one more time to see if we have the info on this photo. Just looking for the user. Yeah, I don't see any info on this. So once again, if this is your photo, please claim it and give us some information around it as to what you were intending, and we will come back to this one. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next shot. Okay, so this one here is Minisla's photo. Hello, Minisla. How's it going?
Hey.
Minisla says, just a bog standard reflection. D300, 28 to 85, f3.5 to 4.5 lens. All right, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, this is a lovely reflection. What I like about this one that I don't think we've seen yet is that you did what I like to do with reflections, is instead of following the rules of theirs, you had the reflection right down the middle, and I think that works very well in here. I like the drama in the clouds. I like how the lake is so calm that you're getting the reflection, but then it also has the ripples, so it's breaking the reflection up, so it's not like a complete mirror surface. So I do like the way that it is being broken up like that a little bit, just to kind of give it a little bit of feel and a little bit more drama to it as well. A minor thing which I would probably clone out is on the left hand side, about 2/3 of the way down. It looks like you can see a bunch of reeds sticking out, and I find them kind of distracting because they're just kind of there and kind of interfering, I guess, with the reflection that I'm expecting to see. That all of a sudden there's like these few little splots that are there. So myself, if it was me, I'd consider cloning them out, but that's just me. But other than that, it's lovely. I really like it.
I agree with you on the reeds. I think it's worth cloning those out. Additionally, there's this little, I'm not even sure, maybe a boathouse right here, which is 2/3 ish away along the shoreline, that I think you could probably hit too. Minisla just said, thought about cloning, but I thought it is what it is, which is if that's what you want to do, as we've said before, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, absolutely.
I do agree with your assessment that I also do find them a bit distracting. And if it were mine, I'd probably take them out as well. I love this shot and the reflection that you captured with it. The vista, the view that you've captured here, is bog standard beautiful too. I would straighten the horizon line, like somebody else mentioned. I'm not sure who. Noisy Mama suggested straightening out the horizon, and I agree with that too. There's a bit of a slope running this way here, so
Yeah, I didn't notice that. Wow.
yeah, I was waiting for you to say something.
That's
One
slacking off in my old age.
right. One of my favorite things about this photo, Minisla, is the boater and the wake line of the boater cutting through the reflection. I like that element because I can't even quite vocalize or kind of put into words why I like it so much, but I just love what it adds to the shot.
Hmm.
Because it's telling more of a story, right? Like seeing the beautiful landscape and seeing that reflected in the water is gorgeous. But then having this human element in here adds an extra feeling of peacefulness to me because I think what it is, as I'm literally just talking and letting my brain process, is that seeing that boat almost puts me in that boat with them and puts me into that scene and reminds me of times that I've been in similar situations and how beautiful and calm and peaceful and just absolutely amazing it is to be in a place like this and experience the wonder and beauty of nature like this. And so to
Yeah,
have captured that in a photograph like you've done here, Minisla, I think is really beautifully executed. The exposure is great. I love the bit of heaviness that the clouds have because that adds some drama to the shot. And all in all, I think it's just really very nicely done photo.
yeah. I think the person in there also helps add some scale to it too, so you get an idea of how big the hill or mountain or whatever it is in the background there. So
Yeah. Minisla, if you're struggling with the resolution as far as exporting the image in a way at a resolution that you want for uploading to this so that the details are a bit better, do me a favor and message me somewhere. Email me at Spyros at selfhelpphotographer.com, or if you're connected with me on any other platform, Instagram or something like that, shoot me a message and I'll try to help you get that sorted out so that you can upload something that represents your work the way you'd like it to. But I understand that we all understand it's a lower resolution image that we're looking at, so I'm not worried about the details because I know you have them in the actual image.
hmm.
All right, beautiful work. Thank you for sharing this with us. Okay, here we go. This is I can't remember whose shot it is now. I just know that this is the one that we were supposed to look at. Fernando's. There we go. Oh goodness. My brain's starting to get a little addled, folks. All right, let me just find Fernando's information. Let's see here. I'm not seeing. Fernando, if you could just go ahead and reshare the information for us, I'd appreciate it because I'm not finding it, so I might have lost it somewhere along the line. Oh, here we go. Shot in a seamless pool. Didn't expect the dog to photobomb. Was aiming for a minimalist look, so I purposely overexposed the sky to use it as a white backdrop, and the camera is just above the water level. Yeah, that is really cool. All right, Mark, I'll let you go ahead.
Admittedly, I'm not sure what a seamless pool is.
So it's a pool. It's typically at like a resort or whatever, and it's a pool that has an edge that lets the water run over it. And then there's a trough that drops down below to catch that water. And that edge typically faces the ocean. So as you turn to look at the ocean from within the pool, it looks like you are basically standing in and looking directly into the ocean, and you don't see any of the ground or anything in between.
Oh, okay, okay. Shows what I know. I need to travel more, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. As for the shot itself, I think the fact that you caught it when the dog was photobombing, I think is kind of cute in itself, and the fact that the dog actually has its paw up. there as well too. Sort of adds to it. I kind of curious whether she's the owner of the dog or if it was literally just some random dog that came in there. But
Yeah.
considering it went from what looks like a maternity shoot to a dog visiting shoot's kind of cute too. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but I do like the reflections. It's very similar to the other one where you do have the ripples, so it kind of breaks up the reflection, but you still know that it's a nice reflection. So I think it works quite well. Uh, the fact that the dog's there doesn't bother me, but for some reason, I don't know why, but the editing on the dog looks different than the editing on her because to me she looks, I don't want to say pale, but less contrasty than the dog, but it's probably just the colors that are actually on the dog. So I'm not sure why that's like that, but I just find that they seem disproportionate to each other. Or not disproportionate, but the editing seems off between one and the other. But again, that's probably just me. But otherwise, I like the shot. I like what you've done here, and I like how you captured this moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Fernando said it is her dog and it wasn't maternity shoot, and so the dog just came in and photobombed. I love her reaction to the dog, and again, like you said, the fact that the dog put his that definitely his paw
Yeah,
paw on
clear on that, right?
yeah. Okay, that makes a ton of sense. So what I was going to say, Fernando just added there was a flash and the dog intercepted the light in coming in from camera left, which is what's creating that bit of disconnect because the dog because what I was thinking is based on what Fernando had said that he overexposed the sky on purpose to use it as a white backdrop. I was thinking maybe like the sun was behind where the dog is, and because that would be the brightest spot in the sky, there was a bit of wrap around lighting coming from the sun that was giving making the dog look almost like like it doesn't belong or like it was photoshopped in, but intercepting the flash makes a ton of sense.
Hmm.
So I really like this shot. I think it's super fun. Vicky did mention something that is worth pointing out. The reflections from the water up onto her thighs make it look like cellulite, and women typically don't like that. This is always a thing that is a fine line that we have to tread as portrait photographers when we are photographing people and body image and things of that nature. So something like that is absolutely worth asking the model about, or model or subject client about if it's something that they want removed or if they want left or if they just don't care. I hadn't even noticed that until Vicky pointed it out. I love the use of the infinity pool. I also love the use of the sky as a white backdrop. It gives this a very ethereal feel that I quite like. And because you did that overexposure, there is a bit of that haloing or that wraparound on both of them, more so on the dog than on her. And that helps add to that feeling. The reflections, I do kind of wish, and I'm suspecting without the dog bomb, they might have been a little bit calmer. I think they're a little bit too disjointed, and having just a little bit more cohesion to the reflections would be nice. But when you get a dog bomb, there's not a ton you could do, and I still love this photo. So that's a pretty tiny criticism, to be perfectly honest, because all in all, it just makes me smile looking at this photo, and for me that's a total win. All right, I'm looking for the next shot here. Yeah, it's a fun shot, Mike. I absolutely agree. Was there anything else? Oh, Vicky said if you open the photo fully, that was when she noticed the water reflecting on her.
Mm.
Okay, so this next photo is Noe's photo, and Noe did have to go to work, but Noe did share his information on the photo. So let me just find this real quick. I like the way the lanterns looked. I shot this with auto ISO, aperture priority at f2, and I underexposed by 1 stop. Uploaded straight from my phone so I don't have a higher resolution, just while watching the stream. All right, I'll let you go ahead on this, Mark.
Yeah, okay. It's definitely an interesting shot. I like how you actually notice this. At first, to me, it doesn't really scream reflections, but then it's like, well, then you start seeing these little purple spots that are kind of here and there, and then there's also a little bit of reflections underneath these lamps as well too, basically the light from the lamps kind of reflecting back up. So there is a little bit of reflection. I think, to be honest, I think it's almost a bit of a stretch calling it a reflection shot, but I can definitely see the reflection and where you're going, where you're going, trying to get the reflections in here, because like I said, there's these purple lights that are kind of here, but I'm not really sure where they're coming from. So I think for me, the biggest reflection is mostly the light reflecting off the base from where these red lights themselves are.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my take on it.
Okay, I love the colors in this, and I love this interpretation of it because it's making you work to find the reflection. So that was my first thought too. I'm like, is this a reflection shot? I'm not 100% sure. But then as I pulled back and looked, I'm like, there's reflection in this shot, absolutely. And you know, based on that, it, you know, because we leave it open to whatever that interpretation is, it could be whatever it is, right?
Yeah, true enough.
Yeah, and I like also, I think one of the things that helps make it hard for me to see is I'm not sure aperture priority f2 underexposed by stop. Not sure what the shutter speed was on it, but it might be that the shutter speed was just a hair slow because there's just a bit of blur to these lanterns, which I like. I actually like. And it might be because of because it's being shot through like a window of a storefront or the glass, which is also again where those purplish reflections are coming from. But all of that just makes it more interesting to me because my eye keeps roaming around and looking at the different aspects of it and basically I'm trying to figure out what's going on here, and that engagement is something that I'm really enjoying. I think for me, the biggest issue I have is up here in this corner. These white lights break me out of the magic a little bit because they're so white and they're so much more defined than the rest of the lights in the image. And then there's something going on down here. It looks almost like a person's arm in the lower left that I kind of wish wasn't there because that sort of does the same thing. It distracts me from what I really want to look at and explore, which is this sort of beautiful bounty of lights that we have mostly in the middle of the frame.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting photo.
I really do like it.
There's lots to look at for sure.
Yeah, like I just, I kind of can't stop staring at it, honestly, because of the lights and the way those reflections create depth. And yeah, it's a really nice shot. I really like it, Noe. Thank you very much for sharing it with us. Okay, we got one more photo, and when I saw this uploaded, I didn't even have to know whose photo this was. So this is this is Vicky's photo, and I know that because I know Vicky, and if I know Vicky is obsessed with macro photos of eyes, and she routinely is taking those photos, and I love it. So Vicky says of this, this was shot with the Canon 70D with the 100mm macro lens at f10 and ISO 250 at 1/60th of a second. She used our other photographer friend Kim's studio lights and a ring light, so she doesn't know what the lights were set at. And then she adds, and this is perfect and brilliant and smart because this is the thing you have to do when you're managing reflections. I was smart this time and draped myself with black fabric and only had the camera lens peeking out. And so she didn't have to Photoshop herself out of the eye.
No, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
All right. Because I look at this and what I see is the dog taking a picture.
Right, exactly.
But it's also like, well, how's the dog holding the camera?
All right, go ahead, Mark.
This is an awesome reflection shot. And normally with ring lights, I'm not a fan of them, but in this case, just because it's not actually reflecting like a traditional ring light, like normally, but with whenever you see a ring light, it's usually right down the barrel of the lens, and then you end up with you can't see me pointing at my screen, but you basically end up with a ring literally around the iris of the eye, and
Mm-hmm.
to me, I've never really liked that look, but that's me. That's not saying that I'm right or wrong or anything like that. It's just my preference. So having it off to the side like that, I think definitely helped helped for me to actually not mind having the light in there because it looks like it could have been uh, just any other light source versus a ring light. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
definitely captured this nicely. You got the focus bang on, and it's great. It definitely works well.
Yeah, Vicky added that we had the ring light on so I could see to focus. Need to figure out a way to do that without it. Yeah, that's one of the hardest things about macros, getting that focus down. And the fact that you got the focus on this is really beautiful. And Harley made the perfect comment. Another dog bombs the photo.
Yeah,
So this is really cool. My favorite thing is the detail in the iris of the eye. That's just so beautiful, and being able to see that is really really fantastic. And the way you frame the dog so that the head is right there in the pupil, I think is really neat too, because it's almost as if the dog is inside of the eye looking out at you, like there's a secret doggo brain inside of all of us that just like takes over or something like that. It's just fun, and it tells an interesting and fun story. And what would be even cooler and make that sort of story even more powerful is if you like you can see the body of the dog lightly reflected in the rest of the iris of the eye, and if you were to take a few minutes to photoshop that out, like take a bit of the other parts of the iris and move them over and cover that up and make it look like it's not lighter there because of the dog's body, it would really look like the dog is now inside peeking out of the eye, and that would be even cooler. So
almost creepy.
yeah, it would be. It would be creepy in a very cool way. So I love this shot. I've always loved Vicky's eye photos. I think they're really cool, and the reflections that she captures in them are always really fun. And this is a really wonderful example of that. Figuring out all of the stuff about macro photography is really hard, and so I always applaud macro shooters because there's an extra layer of difficulty when you're getting down to that level and dealing with things at that scale.
Ooh, have we done that? We haven't done that as a theme, have we?
No, that's that. I am going to add that to the theme to the challenge list right now. So let me bring my notes up and put macro. Did we do macro? No, I thought we did do macro because I think I took the photo of the peppercorns.
Oh, you're probably right.
So yeah, I think we did macro already. All right.
Then ignore me then.
Okay. All right. So that is our last photo of the evening, which means we're about to wrap this up. However, you have one last chance to vote on the challenge for next week if you have. Oh, that was textures, so we haven't done macro yet. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. Then I will add macro to that list. It just happened. I was thinking macro on that because I shot it with mine was a macro. All right. Well, that'll be up for voting again.
There we go.
Okay, so you have one last chance to vote on the challenge for next week. Let me post that link in the chat. It is https://shp.photo/vote. So go vote. As of right now, Square is handily trouncing food with hot and architecture distantly following behind. So take another moment to vote. And as we're wrapping up and blathering on for another moment, we'll announce the challenge after that. So thank you guys for sharing your photos. That's not what I'm looking for. We'll switch back over here. I know what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm looking at the wrong thing. All right, Mark. Any last words you want to add?
No, I appreciate you starting without me and letting me pop in and interrupting the stream. So that's great. I appreciate that. I just had a ton of running around to do
Yeah.
tonight, so I wasn't able to make it right off the get go. So that was actually pretty smooth transition getting me in there. 'Cause sometimes we spend half an hour trying to get things to work
Yeah.
properly.
Yeah. Well, I was like, it should be fine. Hopefully, it doesn't turn into a total disaster. And I'm glad that it
Yeah,
worked out too. Yeah, because it's not the same if you're not here. So
yeah. And
yeah,
I would have missed some great photos because there was definitely some great,
yeah.
like, for sure.
Like truly, all of the photos tonight were really top notch, and I really appreciate everybody
Yeah, it's
sharing
nice.
their work.
Yeah, it's nice to see everybody stepping up their game with the photos we see from week
Yeah.
to week, and some of the people are naturally great photographers and always have great stuff. But then you also have the other ones who have been here for a while. Like I think Brenda's a perfect. Is it Brenda? I think is a
Mm-hmm.
good example where we've seen her progress, and she's been progressing quite well over a short period of time. And to be honest, those are the ones that I like to see more so than the ones that are great that all the time, because I like to see the great ones, but I like to see how people are progressing and learning and just stepping up their game from week to week, and it's always interesting to see how people are doing and how they're progressing.
Yes, I agree 100%. That's what's so fun is just seeing the growth and the fun that everybody has. That's really
Yeah,
fantastic.
and knowing that we're actually making a difference because people are
Yep.
actually learning from us and growing, and we know these challenges are helping them out and making them think, and it makes us think too sometimes.
Oh God, absolutely.
Both times.
Yeah. So Minisla had a good point. Let's take a minute to talk. While we're giving people one last chance to vote, take a minute to talk about the different options regarding macro lenses. Mark, I'll let you start, and then I'll just follow up.
Okay. Macros, there's sort of different levels of macro. I think for the most part, a true, what people call true macros are ones that will basically do one-to-one magnification. So, for example, if you have a full frame camera and say you happen to have an old camera laying around and it's a full frame camera as well too, if you take that picture at one to one, that full frame sensor will be this in the photo the same size as your sensor because basically it's one to one. If you have like a 1 to 2 macro, which some people don't consider the true macros, but any sort of macro lens is going to typically be better quality. But then it basically be half the size. Then some people will use like tubes, adapters, and so forth to do even greater than one to one. And that's when you really start seeing some incredible stuff. But that also being said, um, the more you the greater your ratio for magnification, the shallower and shallower your depth of field becomes. So it becomes even more and more challenging as well too.
Yep. And that's where focus stacking can come into play if you want that greater depth, but you're shooting macro. Because what people want to try to do often without realizing that this can be counterproductive is taking the aperture and closing it down, f22, f32, or whatever the smallest aperture is on the lens. And because you're working so close to the subject as a macro, that's not going to gain you hardly anything. I mean, it may gain you like literally another, millimeter of depth of field or something, maybe, but you're typically needing centimeters or more depth of field to get the entirety of the subject in focus that you're looking for. So if you're working at a macro level and you're struggling with that, then the next thing you should start looking at is focus stacking. Focus stacking is a bit of a challenge, but it's not super hard to do. It's just kind of figuring out how many shots you need in order to create a good focus stack, and then figuring out which software to use to put it together. And there are cheap ways to get into macro. There are obviously macro lenses like Mark was talking about, and then you also mentioned the tubes, didn't you?
Yeah, extension.
Yeah, and extension tubes are probably the cheapest and easiest way to get into macro photography because they work with your existing lenses. What they do is they go in between your camera and your lens, extending the distance between the back of the lens and the camera itself. And doing that changes how close you can get the lens to a subject and still have it in focus. So if you want to shoot macro, whether it's for the challenge, if that ends up being what's voted, or just because you want to get into it, but you can't afford a new lens, those tubes are a really great option. And then Vicky also said there are macro magnifying filters, essentially, or lenses that you screw on to the filter thread of your lens, and those also magnify. So those are options that you can look into for macro. And if we did do a macro challenge, one thing that we'd probably do is make it essentially a close-up challenge. It wouldn't have to be
true. Yeah, it wouldn't be true macro.
Exactly. It wouldn't be true macro. It wouldn't have to be because, again, it's not. We want to make these as inclusionary as we can for folks. But I like the idea of a macro challenge or something similar. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, something else Brant mentioned is basically you can take your lens and mount it on the camera backwards using.
Yes.
The reverse ring, I think is what it's called. So literally the front of the lens is actually against the body, and then where you would normally mount is the part that's pointing out. So you literally have your lens on backwards, and that actually a lot of people do that, and it seems to, I think you get better magnification doing it that way than you do using tubes.
Yeah, because what's happening is you're taking the image and it's coming into the small part of the lens, and then it's being enlarged as it moves through the lens towards the back of the camera. So you get some really great magnification. Vicky says if you're going to do that, make sure your lens is set to the aperture that you want before you put it on backwards. It's a really good point.
Yeah, unless you have an older lens that's a manual.
Yeah, and then you can just set it manually. Yeah. But even then you would, yeah. Okay, so one thing I want to apologize because I was saying Brent. I've been saying Brent forever, and it's Brant, and I feel like a moron for not seeing that. So when you just said it now, Mark, I was like, oh my God, I'm such an idiot. So Brant, my apologies for that. All right. The next challenge officially is square crop or 1-to-1, and Sandy just asked what that means, and it is the crop. So what we are looking for the next challenge is a square format photo. You can shoot it square or you can crop it square. It doesn't matter how you achieve it, but in the end, we want to see a square format photo for the next challenge. That is in 2 weeks, which would put us at the 29th of July. So that's the challenge. Anything else you want to add tonight, Mark?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you so much for sharing your really fantastic photos. Like really, really good stuff tonight. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. I'll be here streaming on... Brad says that's okay. Just call me for dinner. Yeah. I am quite literally going to eat my dinner as soon as we wrap this up. So come on over, Brant. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening, and we will see you next week for the next show. Bye. Jazz hands.